Hello and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host Rob, and today we're going to be talking about Curse of Strahd. I did a previous review of Dragon Heist, which I really enjoyed, and it's one of my favorite adventures that Wizards of the Coast has published so far. But one of is not my very favorite, because this is the best product they've made so far, I think, at least for adventures. Now, it's pretty much impossible to talk about Curse of Strahd without referring to the original Ravenloft, because essentially it is Ravenloft, just with more things added on to make it a little more fleshed out. Unfortunately, I can't find my original I6 Ravenloft anymore. I still have Ravenloft 2, the house on Griffin Hill, which is also a fine product from back in the day, but I no longer have the original Ravenloft. I still remember running it back in the day as a DM, very, very distinctly though, because for whatever reason, we ended up finishing the campaign, or the adventure, over at my friend Ryan's place. I think it's the one and only time we ever played at his place, because his parents were very mean. So usually we played at my place, and my parents are very nice. But for whatever reason, we finished up at his place, and I remember it went pretty late, but everybody was really enjoying it, I could tell, and we just decided to push through till the end. And when we finished, I just remember Ryan looking at me and saying, "That was the best adventure ever." And I was like, "Really?" And then everybody else in the game was like, "Yeah, that was the best adventure of all time." And it was just a great experience. I remember just all the cards and the randomness of certain events, but then the fact that Strahd is such a great, well-developed, fleshed-out villain really helped to make it an interesting adventure. And I'm pleased to say that Curse of Strahd has managed to maintain a lot of that, which in some ways is surprising, because in subsequent years, not only would Ravenloft itself get a sequel, but eventually it would get its own campaign setting, it would get a series of novels published, and as the setting gets more and more developed, a lot of times it can also move away from the core essence of what it once was. And I'm pleased to say that Curse of Strahd has really kind of brought it back to that. It's managed to keep the original adventure intact, has also added a lot of other areas so that players can level up and meet a lot more NPCs. And not only is the story great, but the NPCs are also awesome. Now, sure, some of them are, Van Richten is basically just Van Helsing, and you can make a lot of those type of comparisons. But the fact is, the NPCs are very interesting, they're very flamboyant, and they're very memorable. And these are all things that I enjoyed about it. So I think for the next part of the video, I'm just going to have the camera over the book, and we will just flip through it and discuss it a bit. And then you don't have to look at me all day. So that might be a welcome change of pace. Okay? Alright, so hopefully this part works out okay. I'm just holding the camera, so that might not be great, and you're going to be seeing my hand. But I think hopefully we can eliminate most of the glare, and it'll allow me to flip through the book and just show you some of the art and talk about some of the NPCs and whatnot. Now, I've already mentioned the story of Curse of Strahd is excellent, is very well done. Most of you are probably familiar with Strahd von Zarovich. Like I said, he's kind of become iconic in D&D circles. But I think that one thing that really stands out with him is that he's a villain who actually has motivation and backstory, and there's a human type side to him as well. Players can find his journals and actually get to know him a bit. He's not just this monster of the week that so many of the typical D&D villains end up becoming. He's also a very persistent villain. He's intelligent, he'll do things like scry on the party and then send minions to attack them and harass them, and that kind of stuff can be used to help build some tension. I quite like a lot of that. But it's not just Strahd either. Most of the NPCs are very, very, very interesting and well done. You've got the Burgomaster's family, including, of course, Arena Koyena. And you've got characters like, right here, let's just flip to the back towards the NPC section. There we go. We've got Babylon Saga, and yes, okay, she's kind of basically Baba Yaga. And you could argue that Von Richten is basically Van Helsing, sure enough. But the fact is that these NPCs still have a lot more to make them interesting than a lot of NPCs in typical adventures. And it's very easy, because they kind of are dealing with archetypes, it's very easy to be able to play them as a DM and give them personality. Now, Esmeralda here was actually one of our favorite NPCs from the campaign. She joined the party and adventured with them quite a while. People enjoyed the fact that she had a wooden foot because she lost it fighting werewolves. And she actually ended up having a bit of a fling with one of the player characters as well. So that was pretty memorable. And she was with them for quite some time. They've also added a bunch of other areas. They have the Amber Temple, which was one of our favorite areas and was quite lengthy. They had places like the wine and vineyard, the winery and vineyard. There's even a starter area called the Death House, which we ended up running, and it was very, very enjoyable as well. In fact, it was one of the spookiest parts of the entire campaign, to be honest. Now, I did have to turn Strahd's power level up a bit because my players had already run through a few other things. So by the time we got to Strahd, they were already above 10th level, and they were pretty well geared. They managed to get a bunch of the artifacts of Ravenloft, like the Holy Symbol and Sunsword and whatnot. So they were fairly well prepared. One thing I do want to say about that Troda deck, because one of the things that happens is the players have a chance to meet an NPC named Madame Eva, and she will do essentially a tarot reading for them. And the reason this is important is because the cards will reveal the location of some of these different artifacts, like the location of the Sun Sword or the Holy Symbol of Ravenloft, and some of these other things. It will also tell you where Strahd can always be found, and it's recommended by the book that you do your own reading just in case the players don't meet her, and then you can go by that. And then if the players do meet her, then they can do their own reading. Now, I kind of cheated and combined both those ideas, where I did my own preliminary reading, and then I just kind of stacked the deck so the players would get the same reading that I'd already done for myself. I'm not saying that you should do this, or even that it's better, but it allowed me to prepare and know where these things were going to be, and it just meant that I was going to be less note-taking, and I could, have better stuff prepared for when they got there, and kind of make these, I could worry about the presentation and not trying to remember all my notes or see where everything was. There were some very memorable scenes as well. This campaign had some of the best role-playing of any of the Wizards of the Coast stuff so far, in my opinion. I remember the festival at the one village, and I thought my players were going to go all murder hobo. Basically, you have the Burgomeister of this particular village, and he's kind of a bit of a jerk, and things don't look so good for some of the players or for some of the NPCs. They're kind of he's kind of mean, and I thought my players were probably going to intervene, but I was also worried. Here they are. Look at them. What a cheerful couple. But anyways, I thought my players might end up, just going all murder hobo and killing him and all his guards and everything else. Because at this point, the players were high enough level that they could have easily killed him, the guards, etc. But they didn't. They just sort of confronted him and forced him and his guards to stand down, and just kind of made him, back off, look like a bit of a wimp, and managed to not inflict a ton of bloodshed. Because this thing, making the Burgomeister look bad makes the villagers happy, but slaughtering all the town guard is not going to have that same effect. It's one thing to embarrass the guy. It's another thing to resort to murdering all your fellow villagers. And I was actually very impressed. My players handled it extremely well. This is the map. Now, some of you might consider it sacrilege to remove the map from the book, but it is a lot easier to use. The map is also beautiful. I just think that as far as like the art and whatnot goes, this is one of the finest products that they've made. I loved the castle map because it has that same 3D feeling that the original Ravenloft had in all of its maps, and so it just completely reminded me of module I6. The Amber Temple was pretty awesome as well. There's an I should probably mention spoilers. I'll just put a note at the beginning of the video saying spoiler, 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 because obviously spoilers. But yeah, there's like an amnesiac lich who can't read any of his spells, and so all he has is a couple low-level spells, and that was pretty entertaining. But in general, the adventure has a lot of great drama, a lot of great role playing, very memorable NPCs, a very compelling story, and has a great conclusion too. Like I like that when the players manage to kill Strahd, you see like the mists of Barovia all begin to part and break, and it's a lot of fun. One of the other interesting encounters our players had is there's a monastery with an angel in it. Now, the players don't originally know he's an angel, but Strahd does, of course. But the angel has been corrupted by Barovia and by its time here because it's trapped as well and can't escape. And it's basically made this like race of mutant beast people by mutating all these villagers into animal creatures. So when the players first met him, they were having this conversation with him, and a couple of players started getting this vibe that this guy is probably evil. One of the players decided to use their detect good or evil ability and realized that, yeah, this guy's probably no good. And then one of the players apparently missed all this, though. I don't know if he wasn't paying attention to the dialogue or just wasn't picking up what the players were putting down. And so when it came time to throw down with this guy, he started trying to help the angel, and it led to a bit of a civil war in the party. And yeah, that was kind of ugly. That took a few weeks to resolve, needless to say. I think one player actually quit originally and then came back later, but still, it was not good. So I would suggest that if something like that happens in your game, that you might want to take a time out and explain to them what's happening. I should have probably did more of that, but I didn't really want, like, I also don't like handing everything over to the players either. I don't want to just give them information. I thought that he'd done a pretty good job of explaining that he was mutating people into animal people, and that, you know, this was a great thing, and they should all be happy, or else. But you know, apparently not everyone was picking up on that. Anyways, I can safely say that of all the pre-published stuff that, like for campaigns at least, that Wizards have come up with so far, this is my absolute favorite. It kind of has everything. It's got role-playing, it's got adventure, it's got tense fights, it has its own distinct mood and feel that a lot of games just don't necessarily have. It has great memorable NPCs, including the villain, but also a lot of just minor characters the players meet. Everyone has goals and motivations that are, you know, distinct and feel personal to that person. And I really, really enjoy that part and that aspect of the adventure. There's also some great dungeons between Castle Ravenloft itself and the Amber Temple, are probably the two best. But it is definitely my favorite that they've come up with so far. So that's pretty much everything I have to say. I would give it an overall rating of A or A plus. I honestly think it's just the finest product that Wizards have released for 5th edition. So that's my thoughts on Ravenloft as a dungeon master who has successfully run it as a campaign. And as a dungeon master who ran the original Ravenloft, I'm pleased to say that it's managed to capture that same original feel and mood, and has managed to expand on it, though, and build it without, you know, distracting from what made the original great. And that's a very fine line to walk, and they've done it beautifully. So that's my thoughts on Curse of Strahd. I hope you enjoy this video, and I will see you next time in the dungeon. Bye.